Good morning, everybody. I hope your morning's been as good as mine. I'm having a great time. I was looking at the results from last night, and man, you couldn't slap the smile off my face. Last night was just beautiful in New Hampshire. This could be a really great election season. It really could. So before, you know, let's just dig into it. Fill your cups, grab your Texas Paul Pothead mugs. Let's do this. I got to tell you, folks, this is really something. We're going to start with the Democrats. That is just amazing. If you didn't see what happened with Joe Biden last night, there was a kerfuffle, a dust up between New Hampshire and the Democratic Party after the last election. When Biden was running for the nomination, he didn't do so well in Iowa. He didn't do so well in New Hampshire. But he just cleaned house in South Carolina. And to reward the support from the Democratic Party in South Carolina, and also to try to make more common sense out of our primary process, the Democratic Party said, look, Iowa doesn't represent America. It's lily white. It's as white as snow. The views there are far more conservative than the views of your average American. There's no reason, New Hampshire is a bit of a one-off state. If you've ever been to New Hampshire, they're interesting folks. They really are, but they don't really represent mainstream America. Economically, education-wise, everything. They're not a good template for America. So the Democratic Party said, look, we're going to move South Carolina up. And New Hampshire said, oh, no, you're not. We're the first primary. We're going to be the first primary. And the Democratic Party said, no, South Carolina did us a solid with Joe Biden. We're going to reward them. We're going to move them up. New Hampshire said, no, we're not going to do it. We're the boss. We decide. And the Democratic Party said, go ahead, be the deciders. By the way, your delegates don't count. Not kidding. They really did that. And on top of that, to show solidarity with the Democratic Party, Joe Biden's name did not appear on the ballot last night. When you walked in to vote in New Hampshire, there was not a ballot spot for Joe Biden. Marcia Clipper says a bad day for Trump is a good day for us. Happy Wednesday, y'all. Absolutely. Hope your hump day is going as good as mine. So keep that in mind more as we talk about this. Remember, when you vote, you go in, it's usually electronic, and you've got your selections. There was no selection for Joe Biden on a Democratic ticket. There just was not. He wasn't there. So the guy that was there, Dean Phillips, should have just cleaned house. I mean, people being people, you just walk in, hit the button, and leave, right? Oh, no, my friends. Oh, no. Joe Biden not being on the ballot has secured 65% of the vote in New Hampshire. 65% of the vote in New Hampshire. Dean Phillips got 20%. 20%. Let me tell you, as a guy that has been watching the corporate media talk about all the problems, how scared Joe Biden needs to be, this was just great. I just absolutely loved it. Joe Biden, not on the ballot, got 65% of the vote. Way to go, Joe. Way to go, Joe. Oh. Yeah, my man. So far, the totals of the vote totals, and he's at like 54% and 15% of the ballot out there is write-ins that they haven't processed yet, and the write-ins are breaking nearly 100% for Joe Biden. So yeah, about 65%, maybe 70%. We'll see when all the processing is done, but it's 65 to 70% of the vote went to Joe Biden, and he's not on the ballot. Now, conversely, take a look at what happened in the Republican Party, because I have to tell you something. Nikki Haley had a great night. She had a great night. She did, which I don't really like, because I tell you, I'd rather run against Trump than I would run against Nikki Haley any day. And I'll get into more about that, why. But Nikki Haley had a great night. She's at about 45%, 43, 45% as they're finishing the counting. Trump came in at 52%, maybe 53%. Keep in mind, folks, in Iowa, DeSantis and Haley split the not Trump vote. DeSantis came out and endorsed Trump, told his voters, vote for Trump. Haley still took over 40% of the vote immediately following that. And New Hampshire is one of those weirdo states where you got a lot of liberals there and you got a lot of hardcore Republicans there, but that middle ground is pretty slim. This should have been a 60-30 race for Trump. But it wasn't. It wasn't. And now they're heading for Nevada and South Carolina. If Nikki Haley stays in this race, which she said she's going to, she will, at the rate she's going, she will garner enough delegates to deny Donald Trump the nomination. She will. Take a look at this. This is one of the things that has Republicans freaking out. They're in full Nikki Haley has to get out of the race mode. They are threatening her left and right now. They are. Trump's been out there threatening her. There's going to be investigations and yada, yada, yada. New Kid says, good morning, sir. Please tell us about Guard versus U.S. government. We're going to talk about that a little bit later on. We are. Thanks for the support, Luterio. I appreciate you. Got your email, by the way. Thank you. You go by Terry or Luterio? I noticed you signed it Terry. I'll remember. I'll call you by what you want to be called. This has got the Republicans terrified. Look, polling sucks. It really does. Polling is terrible because the way it has to be done. When you hear about somebody's got this much in the poll, somebody's got that much in the poll, ignore it. Ignore it completely. Exit polling, on the other hand, because it's not just a bunch of people calling numbers. And the reason it works is when you get a call from an unknown number, what do? Do you take it? I don't. Most people don't. Most of them you just reject. Unless you're expecting a phone call that you might not know the number, you ignore it. So it's a very specific group of people, very much older, much more conservative. They're people with landlines, man. They're people with landlines. And that's not a joke. That is really true, folks. That's the way polling is so screwed these days, is the sample. It's the sample. And somebody's asking if Trump is scared of Nikki Haley. Terrified. Listen to the way he's talking today. The samples are screwed, but exit polling is different. Exit polling is somebody's walking out of has just voted. They say, hey, you mind if I ask you a question? They get to see the age of the person. So they know to sample, we got old people that are doctors. We need to talk to young people. They can grab younger people as they come out of the polls. Exit polling is much more accurate. This was shared by Dr. Rachel Bitoff. I want her to be on the show. I've invited her to be on the show. In the future, we're going to get her on the show. She really has talked about some things that swing voters and whatnot. I really like Dr. Rachel Bitoff. She's really good. She shared this yesterday about what should scare the living crap out of the Republican Party. First of all, they're trying to spin a narrative this morning that it was a chaos project, that Democrats went in and voted in the Republican primary. No. Exit polling shows 6% of the voters identified as Democrat. They voted on the Republican side. That's about what you can expect for a crossover. That's a normal number. You can expect X number of Republicans. A swing voter is the rarest unicorn in the political game. We'll talk more about that another time, but a true swing voter, as in I voted for Obama and now I'm going to vote for Trump, is a rare unicorn. It is. 6%. That's about right. Republicans, Trump won 74-25. Those are people that came out of the polls. And that little purple line there is Ron DeSantis. I'm sorry, but Ron was going to be the guy that just tore us up. Remember that a few months back? Ron was just going to be the guy we had to be afraid of. Mickey Mouse kicked his ass. Oh. I don't know what that note means. Anyways, so Republicans, 74-25. That blew my whole train of thought. Anyways, independents. This is what should actually terrify Trump. This is what should actually just terrify Trump. Independents or something else. That's your libertarians, folks. 61-37 for Haley. Those are your guys that you hear all the time. Well, I'm a libertarian, but and they always vote Republican. I'm an independent, and they always vote Republican. Those broke hard Nikki Haley. Donald Trump is facing a huge never Trump problem in the Republican Party. There is no enthusiasm in the Republican Party for Donald Trump. And if Nikki Haley sticks it out, she will garner enough delegates to deny Donald Trump the nomination. There will have to be a brokered convention. And I'm all here for it. Here's what Nikki Haley had to say about Donald Trump and why she's staying in the race.
With Donald Trump, Republicans have lost almost every competitive election. We lost the Senate. We lost the House. We lost the White House. We lost in 2018. We lost in 2020. And we lost in 2022. The worst kept secret in politics is how badly the Democrats want to run against Donald Trump.
That's a Republican voter screaming, Trump's a loser. That is a Republican voter screaming, Trump's a loser at a Nikki Haley rally. Yeah, Trump has a huge enthusiasm problem. A huge enthusiasm problem. Oh, and he knows it. And he knows it. And the Republican Party knows it. And they desperately want Nikki Haley to get out of the race so that they can work on that for the next 9 months. Folks, 9 months is forever. 9 months is forever in politics. Things can change. They really can. And what I'm telling you about what Nikki Haley can do, unfortunately, is not what I think Nikki Haley will do. What I think Nikki Haley is going to do is what Republicans do. She's going to try to serve her self-interests. But like all Republicans that get involved with Donald Trump, it's going to cost her in the long run, because this is what I believe is going to happen. Donald Trump is going to offer Nikki Haley the Secretary of State's job. Nikki Haley likes that. She does. She likes the travel. She likes the attention. She's going to take it. And she's going to drop out. And we're going to beat the living crap out of Trump. But let's play a what-if scenario. Let's play a what-if scenario. Trump wins. What happens to Nikki Haley? Well, about 6 months in, she's going to resign. She's going to watch what happens. She's going to watch what Trump does. Because Nikki Haley is a lot of things, and she's got terrible ideas. She's a Republican, folks, which means that she's got very little character. But there are limits for Republicans. There are limits for Republicans. Those people out there are saying, I am not voting for Trump. They're the ones saying, I am diehard Republican, but I'm not going to screw over our democracy. I'm not going to do it. And I know that's what Trump's going to do. That's to the man what they're saying coming out of the voting booths. Why they're not voting for Trump. Nikki Haley, 6 months in, will resign after watching the 2025 project and all the fascism and the cuddling up to Putin, the subservience to Russia. She'll resign. And then she'll be like Jeff Sessions. Just never heard from again. And that'll be the end of Nikki Haley. That's what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen. Except for the fact that we're going to beat the shit out of Trump in 2024. I am telling you, if you ask me who I wanted to run against, Haley, DeSantis, or Trump every day of the week. Every day of the week I want to vote. I want to run against Trump because Trump is the most open about what Republicans are. And 75% of the people that walked into that booth that identified as Republicans and said, Trump is my man. Trump is the Republican Party. And he is absolutely who I want to run against. 100%. Because this is Trump. This is Charlie Kirk. See, there's just been this thing going around the right-wing bubble that most of you haven't seen because you don't hang around in right-wing bubbles. I kind of pay attention to what they're doing. So I get to see this. There's this big anti-DEI thing going on. Diversity, equity, inclusion. If you don't know what DEI is, it's really simple. It is a push by universities and businesses to let people know that, hey, we will hire people of color. We will hire minorities. We will. These jobs are available. Apply for them. It's not we're going to go out and have a quota and we're going to hire X number of people. It is reaching out to a community that normally isn't reached out to in recruiting. And what they're doing is that means that they're pulling the best candidates out of everywhere. Because when you don't reach out to these communities, what you get is you get a more mediocre and more mediocre and more mediocre white pool. You do. So DEI is a good thing. It means you're getting the best of the best, no matter where anybody comes from, which is what we want. Well, to the racists, DEI means mediocre white guy don't get a job. And that is driving them up the wall. They are intensely anti-DEI. They are spreading lies about DEI. DEI means, oh, they're going to hire people of color, mediocre people of color, and give them your job, even though you're a better qualified white guy. And they've been focusing on the airline industry because they're saying that we're getting pilots that just aren't qualified, and it's dangerous, and that scares the shit out of people. It does. So they use the airline industry because several of the airlines have DEI programs where they say, look, we want to find qualified minority pilots. We want the best of the best, people that score the best. Keep that in mind, folks. That's what DEI is. It's not anybody gets a free ride, not anybody gets a bump. It's just recruiting into groups that you wouldn't normally recruit out of to bring in the best candidates. Great way to put it, Peter Campbell. Diversity is a metallurgy of human potential. Absolutely. 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 So what the Republicans have been, of course, saying, oh, white guy, you're a victim again. You're a victim again. And overtly being racist. And old Charlie Kirk goes out and makes this comment yesterday. This is the Republican Party. This is who Trump is. This is who they are.
And that's why I think this United story and the DEI story hits so hard, because we've all been in the back of a plane when the turbulence hits, or when you're flying through a storm and you're like, I'm so glad I saw the guy with the right stuff and the square jaw get into the cockpit before we took off. And I feel better now.
No, I mean, like, you want to go thought crime? Like, I'm sorry, if I see a black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's qualified.
Well, that's the you wouldn't have done that. You wouldn't have. You wouldn't have done that before.
That's not an immediate.
No, you wouldn't have done that before.
That's not who I am. That's not what I believe.
It is the reality the left has created.
And that's why I think this United story and the DEI story hits so hard, because we've all been in the back of a plane when the turbulence hits, or when you're flying through a storm and you're like, I'm so glad I saw the guy with the right stuff and the square jaw get into the cockpit.
What he means there is the white stuff. Not the right stuff, the white stuff. And what he's talking about, he's given the game away. That's exactly it. Take something that naturally instills fear in people, then inject your racism. Inject your racism. Because you know what? When I see a black pilot, you know what I think? Hey, that guy's got a college degree. That guy's sharp. Airline pilots are sharp. That's what I think. I don't have these machinations that these people are talking about.
Cockpit before we took off, and I feel better now. You want
to go thought crime? Like, I'm sorry, if I see a black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's qualified.
Thought crime. That's another big one in the racist community. You hear somebody use the word online, thought crime. What they're talking about is, I think and say racist shit, and you tell me it's wrong, therefore I call it a thought crime. You're telling me I'm a criminal for being frickin' racist. That's where that term comes from. Learn these dog whistles. They're important.
Well, that's the you wouldn't have done that. You wouldn't have. You wouldn't have done that before.
That's not an immediate.
No, you wouldn't have done that before.
That's not who I am. That's not what I believe.
It is the reality the left has created.
That is absolutely who he is. That is absolutely what he believes. 100%. That's why he's saying it.
And that's why I think this United.
Well, yeah, folks. I mean, this is Donald Trump. This is the Republican Party. And that's going to lead us into the next part of this story. Again, Dr. Rachel Bitecofer shared this on this story, and it is huge. It's a Politico story about a guy by the name of Ted. And I want to talk to you about Ted. Ted Johnson. Absolutely fantastic article. I would like you to go read. Ted. This is Ted. Ted says our system needs to be broken, and he is the man to do it. He's talking about Donald Trump. This is Ted. Ted is a 22-year Army veteran. Ted is he's an IT guy. He's a project manager for a technology company. Ted works remotely at home. Ted's got a nice home. He's got a good job that pays a lot. Ted's living the dream. We're in a country that has had a phenomenal economy. And we're going to talk about Germany a little bit later. Germany would love to have what our economy is doing right now. They would love it. We are leading the world. Our economy took off like wildfire. Biden did an amazing job raising interest rates, throttling it down. We have seen unemployment. The experts were saying unemployment will have to just skyrocket to get this inflation under control, and it's going to be horrible, and we're going to have a recession. Joe Biden said, sit down, I've got this. And he started ratcheting up interest rates and ratcheting up interest rates. Unemployment is still at record lows, consistently below 4%. Inflation has dropped. This is the world that Ted is living in. But Ted has gone from being that unicorn swing voter that voted for Obama twice to where he became famous. Ted here was a Haley supporter several months back. And Ted got the attention of Politico and their reporter at a Haley rally because he stood up and asked a question about Nikki Haley about bringing the country together. He just really didn't like the division in the country. Just didn't like it. Well, when the Politico reporter talked to him, he's like, yeah, I haven't really made up my mind. I still need to do my research. But right now, I want to unite her. Well, now Ted wants Donald Trump. Ted wants Donald Trump and thinks that Donald Trump needs to be a wrecking ball that destroys our government. Ted is all in on the 2025 project. Ted believes that Donald Trump is what our country needs. Now, I want to back up just a second. I want you to think about Ted's life again for a second. Ted lives in the suburbs. Ted's got a great job. He works remotely. He's literally living the dream. But Ted believes the country's in such bad shape that the government needs to be destroyed. That's MAGA, folks. That's MAGA. See, I had a discussion yesterday about the border. Here's to answer your question about the border. I had a discussion yesterday about the border. I can't really call it a discussion. It was more an insult match with a bunch of MAGA. This Greg has taken Texans that are in guard, and he's using them as props to take pictures with. He's ripped people out of their lives. See, you know how the National Guard works. These are people these are teachers, these are doctors, these are lawyers, these are firemen, these are cops, these are people that have jobs and lives. And they do the 1 week in a month to be there for disaster response and the things that we use the National Guard for. If we have, war breakout, or serious conflict overseas, they'll be brought on active and used in support roles usually. That's what you sign up for in the Guard. Well, my governor is using them for props. He's spent billions of Texas tax dollars. And he has them putting razor wire at the border to buck the Supreme Court, which has told him you can't do that. Immigration is the purview of the federal government. States don't control immigration. This is international immigration. States don't control that. The federal government does. So when you hear about X amount of arrests at the border, these terrorists were arrested at the border, or this fentanyl was seized, that's the federal government. That's Customs and Border Patrol, CBP. They're doing that job. The Guard are there for photo ops because they were activated by the state, which means they have no purview on immigration, which means they're doing nothing. They're not arresting anybody. They're doing nothing. In fact, it was a Guard member that was dispatched the other day when 2 children and a mother drowned trying to cross where the razor wire was. Just to look for him, couldn't find him. They washed up on shore, found him dead the next morning. They don't do anything. They're photo ops. It's a waste of money, and you're screwing with people's lives. Well, the MAGA came out of the woodwork, lost their damn minds. Ted came into my social media. It's an invasion. I'm stupid. I don't know. I don't really live in Texas, they said. I'm not really a Texan because I'm not scared of the invasion. Folks, that's Ted. That's Ted. They think that the National Guard is down there. They're guarding. It's in their name. They're not being used. It's their job. No, it's not their job. Actually, they're not signed up to be props. Not what they're there for. You're wasting billions of dollars on photo ops for a failed, useless governor. That money could have been put into infrastructure, schools, electric grids. And Abbott ran to India on a vacation. I still love you folks so much. Y'all know where I'm going with things. Before I even get there, RC says Abbott fled to India. That's right. He did. He did. He's taking a taxpayer-funded vacation in India right now. Supposed to be a trade mission. Pisses off our best trade partner, disrespecting Mexico and Mexican people in general, and runs to India. On a taxpayer-funded vacation. Took his wife, by the way. But yeah, MAGA came, the point is MAGA came out of the woodwork. Ted came out of the woodwork. He believes there's an invasion. He believes that immigration is a disaster. Folks, it's not. It's just not. There's a problem down at the southern border, sure. But it's an easily solvable problem. But Republicans don't want to solve that problem. They want to run on, it's an invasion. They need Ted, who's living a great life, to be scared of something. They do. And Ted is scared. Ted thinks that we're being invaded. We're not. The number of engagements per Border Patrol agent is about half what it was 20 years ago. When Republicans were finally forced to get out of the way with Title 42, Title 42 was if they caught somebody, the Republicans love that because it's authoritarianism, it's fascism. They don't have to have, they don't have to take anybody to court. They don't have to prove anything. They could just throw people right back across the border, without any due process. They loved that. The problem is it's a failure. Kim H says, I appreciate the discussions. Can't the National Guard be federalized at this point? Yes, they can. But Joe Biden won't do it. He will not do it, and I'll explain why in a little bit. But yeah, they were all about Title 42 because it seemed like fascism. What Ted wants. Ted wants some fascism, man, to make him feel safe. It doesn't like that whole due process thing. That's messy. That's ugly. That doesn't hurt the people he wants hurt. The problem is Title 42 was an abject failure because they would take people, put them across the border, and they come right back across because there was no teeth in it. The regular process, you go to court. If you crossed illegally and you have no legitimate claim tongue tied again. I don't know why I have a mental block against this word. Not amnesty. Come on, folks, help me out here. But if you cross the border and you've got no legitimate claim to stay here, you go to court, they convict you, and it goes on your record. You can actually end up going to jail for crossing illegally. It goes on your record. Asylum. Thank you. I don't know why I have a mental block against the word asylum, but I do. Every show, you're going to have to remind me of the word asylum. But yeah, that's what happens. It goes on your record, folks. Illegal crossings plummeted when Title 42 went away. And if Republicans would get out of the way and let we Democrats do what we want to do to fix the problem, which is beefing up our technology. We have the agents down there. We do. We really don't need more agents. The number of engagements per agent is half what it was 20 years ago. But we have 6 times as many agents down there now. What we need is modern technology. What we need are better databases. What we need are better ways of communicating with the countries that these people come from to get information about these people quickly. Do Dems have a governmental candidate in the wings? Not yet. Not yet. Not yet. You got the usual suspects that are lining up. But as far as somebody really good yet, no, not yet. Not yet. Look, Democrats want to take, and we want to launch a couple more satellites so we can have better satellite surveillance of the border. That's today technology. Democrats want to improve. You've heard me talk about this before. Our seismic sensors are so much better now than they were when the old ones that we have down there now were deployed. The technology is way beyond that. We would do all of that, but Republicans will not, because they need Ted to be scared. They need Ted to be scared because life is good, man. And if Ted's not scared, he'll never vote Republican. And right now, they've got Ted scared. And it's not just the border. You know, I've told you about Christopher Rufo before and the Manhattan Institute and what they have openly said that they do. They ride the backlash. And see what Ted's looking at, and Ted would never tell you he's a racist. He doesn't feel that he's a racist. But Ted looked at what happened with Derek Chauvin, and it scared the shit out of him. He'd never tell you that. He wouldn't. He would never, just like they said the Civil War is about states' rights when it was about slavery, because they'll never tell you it was about the right to own another human being, the right to own black people. They'll never fess to that, but that's what it was about, because that's what they could do. Just like Ted would never tell you that he was cool with Derek Chauvin. And he's really scared because Derek Chauvin went to prison for murder. Oh, on a side note, by the way, remember the story last year about the young kids that were looking for a house they were going to go hang out. They pulled into the wrong driveway, and the freaky Trump, it was in upstate New York, the freaky Trumper MAGA guy popped off a couple of shots at the car, ended up hitting a young woman in the neck and killing her. Yeah, he was convicted yesterday of murder. He's going to prison for the rest of his life. But back on what we were talking about. You know, Ted would never tell you that he saw a black drug user get killed by a white cop and then the white cop go to prison for it as something that terrifies the shit out of him. But it is. It is. Christopher Rufo's as much said it. There's a backlash from that in the white community, and they are riding it, man. They're injecting as much racism about minorities as possible. And Derek Chauvin, man, that was gold for them. That's who Ted is. Ted is looking around and seeing gay people. See, back in Ted's day, gay people stayed in the closet. So Ted could sit around with his buddies and tell his gay jokes and not have to hear anything about it. That was just normal. Well, now more people than ever are coming out of the closet and just living their best lives. Doc in Paradise says casual bigotry. That's right. Absolutely. That's what Ted was used to. And Ted will never tell you he's a racist. He'll tell you he voted for Obama twice. But I know Ted. I know a lot of Teds. And all of this is adding up. This is why the anti-LGBTQ plus, the anti-trans stuff was hit on so hard, because it really, really affected Ted. You know, there's an old saying that for someone who's never been held accountable, accountability feels like oppression. And that's real, folks. That is real. That's Ted. That is Ted in a nutshell. Again, to recap, Ted has a great life. Ted has a great job. Ted sits at home and works because of all the things that we did as Democrats. But Ted thinks the government needs to be destroyed by Donald Trump. And that January 6th, Ted has said this to Politico, January 6th wasn't an insurrection. We're just all making a big deal about that. And that Donald Trump's actually a victim because there was no insurrection. What we're doing to him is wrong. Because Ted has had the privilege his entire life to express anger without repercussion. To him, January 6th really wasn't an insurrection. It was okay. It was just an expression of feeling. Folks, you take two groups of people. One of them are all black men, one of them are all white men. They express the exact same amount of rage and anger at the white level. Okay? The black guys get pepper sprayed, they get beaten with batons and taken to jail. The white guys get patiently listened to. Ted cannot understand why we didn't just patiently listen to the folks on January 6th. It was okay. In fact, of all the things that Trump is being tried for, the only one Ted actually raised an objection to was the documents case down in Mar-a-Lago, because that kind of hits home for him as an Army veteran. You can't mishandle classified material. You just can't do that. But is Trump responsible for that? No. Somebody gave Trump bad advice, according to Ted. According to Ted's own words, somebody gave Trump bad advice. But the FBI, damn that FBI. This is why the FBI needs to be destroyed. The FBI just took it over the top. And they're victimizing Trump. Folks, Ted's getting old. Ted is getting old. And he's feeling really vulnerable. And he's never been held accountable. He's been allowed to express his rage. You know, guys that look like me, folks, it's 60-40. 40% are like me. 60% are like Ted. But we have all, you know, when I get pulled over, I'm like, shit, man, this is going to cost me some money. I have never in my life had the feeling, oh God, this is where I die. And as much as I would like to tell you, as much as I feel empathy, I can't feel sympathy because I've never had that feeling. Old Saul says, Ted didn't see Bobo and Republicans in committee hearings demonizing people like him who work from home. Yeah. See, that's the thing. I'll get to that in just a second. See, I as much as I'm an ally, I can't tell you what the experience is like. I've never felt it. Never gonna feel it. Because thankfully, minorities don't want revenge. They just want equality. And Ted's never felt it. So when somebody holds him accountable, like on January 6th, he sees a bunch of white raging people held accountable, it feels like persecution. You know, that's a great story. And yeah, when we do another racism piece, I will talk. Left-handed Jedi says, you can talk about the 200 plus bodies buried behind the jail in Mississippi. What he's talking about is they were digging behind a jail in Mississippi and they found human remains and they did some research. Turns out this jail in Mississippi, people have been dying left and right. They haven't even been telling the families. These families just think their family's in jail and they're dead. They just bury them. Just let them die. Didn't get a medical treatment, on and on. Anyways, it's a horrible story, but we'll talk about it. That's not where we're going today. We're talking about Ted today. Folks, it really, really happens. This is really real. This is really MAGA. They feel like they're being invaded when there's really just a problem that needs some attention. That's all. They really feel like our country is in desperate straits, even though, man, it doesn't get any better than, you remember that movie that Jack Nicholson, is this as good as it gets? It doesn't get any better than this, folks. Economy-wise, hell, we're so free, you can be a Nazi in this country. But you can't in Germany, which we're going to go to next. I want you to keep Ted in mind while we talk about this next story. Quick side note, Russia's burning again, by the way. Got a couple slides I want to show you of Russia, then we're going to move to Germany. Talk about our foreign news. This is a major transmission substation in Vladivostok. Go to the map. This is Vladivostok. A lot of people are like, oh, Ukraine did this. Ukraine didn't do this. Ukraine didn't do this. This is Vladivostok. Okay, you see the map here. You see Japan, China, Mongolia, Russia. This is far eastern Russia. I'm going to zoom in. This is Vladivostok. It is one of Russia's largest port cities. See North Korea, China, huge amounts of trade go through Vladivostok. This is Japan. Huge amounts of trade in that part of the world. This is Vladivostok. It is a massive industrial city. It is about 10 degrees Fahrenheit, minus 12 degrees Celsius for our European folks and our Canadian folks in Vladivostok. Right now, as we speak, I checked the temperature before I came online. Half that area, because two of these major, this isn't your local neighborhood substation. Two of the major transmission substations blew up because Russia is crumbling and falling apart. No, it wasn't attacked. It wasn't like we had the terrorist attacks here with the right-wingers that were practicing terrorist runs and they were shooting up substations last year. You remember that story? That's not what this was. This was just corruption and a failure of maintenance. These major substations blew up on their own. Russia is crumbling. Half that region, the region, folks, not just the city proper, the region has no power now. It is 10 degrees Fahrenheit, minus 12 degrees Celsius. They have no running water because they have no electricity to power the pumps at the treatment plants. They have no sewage because they have no water. That is Russia. That is Russia today. So, moving on to Germany. There's a story happening in Germany that has not been covered by the corporate media, and it is massive. It is huge. This is Berlin. Over the last couple of days, there have been massive protests. They're saying well over 1.4 million people have turned out for protest across Germany. I want to show you a couple slides real quick. This is Berlin, folks. This is Berlin. This is Frankfurt. These are the protests in Frankfurt. This is Cologne. These are the protests in Cologne. Look at that. As far as the eye can see. I had pictures of Munich and everything, but you get it. I can only show you some of these slides before I lose you. Every major city in Germany has massive protests going on right now, and it is for something that is going to make you so damn happy. It's an anti-right-wing anti-fascism protest that is going on. It is just blown up in Germany. See, there's been kind of a move to the right. You heard of Dirk Wilders getting elected in the new Dutch prime minister, trying to put together a government. He barely got elected, but you had Meloni down in Italy get elected. She's an out fascist. Germany's not like the rest of these countries, folks. They know what fascism is, and they know how bad it is. And they are not having it at all. Barbara Lanke, thanks for the support. What happened to trigger this is there's a party in Germany, Alternative für Deutschland, or Alternative for Germany party in English. And of course, you wouldn't be a bunch of good little Nazis if you didn't have a youth movement. This is the Junge Alternative for Deutschland. Every city has one of these. Junge Alternative. If you took everything bad about the right, the COVID denial, the anti-vaccines, the 100% fealty to Putin and repeating Putin's talking points, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, that's the AfD. That's the Alternative für Deutschland party, the AfD. The leaders of the AfD are Tino Chupala. This is Tino. And they look like the villains out of the Indiana Jones Nazi movie. They look like Bond villains. This is Tino Chupala. This is also Tino Chupala with Sergei Lavrov in Moscow. They are RT incarnate. This is the other co-head, Elisa Weidel, or as we would call her, Alice Weidel. Elisa Weidel. This is why I joke and say they look like the Nazis in the Indiana Jones movie. This is Elisa Weidel. She is a investment banker turned politician, and the AfD are intensely racist. They are intensely racist. But that's a crime in Germany. You can't. They have laws regulating hate groups, and these folks are Germany's fifth largest party, and they are about to lose their status, I believe. That's one of the things this protest is about. See, they had a meeting with this guy, Lisa Weidel's top deputy, a couple billionaires, and unfortunately, a couple members of the Christian Democratic Union, which would be their version of the Republican Party in Germany. And now remember, they're a parliament, so they don't just have one Republican Party that can be all the bad things. They've actually got people that are like, well, we want to be really bad, so we're going to take those voters that are the most crazy, and we're going to put them in our party, and that's the AFD. The Christian Democratic Union is like our Republican Party, with some of the nuts pulled out of it. A couple of them showed up for this meeting to meet with this guy. This is another guy you've never heard of, but you're going to in the future. This is Martin Sellner. See, Martin Sellner, they don't call themselves racists. To get around the laws, they call themselves identitarians. Identitarians. These are the people that are fomenting the anti-European Union movement in Europe. They're the ones that go into France and say, oh, the European Union, you're going to lose your identity. Thanks for the support, Sherry Foster. I appreciate you. You're going to lose your identity. You're not going to be French anymore. They go in, they were the people behind Brexit. They were the people that were, he's Austrian. They're trying this in Germany, and the people are not having it because in this meeting, they had a remigration meeting. That was the focus of this meeting. And there was an upstart young news outlet that caught wind of it, and they recorded them. They did secret recordings. They did secret recordings of this meeting. And in this meeting, they talked about deporting millions of German citizens, millions of German immigrants and German citizens. They're talking about what they're talking about quietly here in the United States, taking people's citizenship away and sending them out. The reason this has triggered protests in Germany is they have experience with this, folks. Here we have Holocaust deniers. Okay, people that in our racist movement that say the Holocaust didn't really happen. It happened. It happened. And before it happened, before you had we're going to murder everybody final solution, you had a first solution. And the first solution was that they were going to take all of the gypsies, all of the Jews, the Nazis were going to take all the gypsies, all of the Jews and everybody, and they were going to migrate them to Madagascar, the island off of the coast of Africa. They were going to move them all to Madagascar. That was the first solution that ended up at gas chambers, mass murdering 4 million people. So the Germans understand history repeats itself, and it is repeating itself because this is a meeting for the first solution for immigrants in Germany. It is history repeating itself. And the Germans are having none of it. Never again. Never again. And this is not isolated, folks. You know how they accuse us of being controlled by globalists on the left? George Soros, and we're controlled by the globalists. We're not really America, and we're not. There's a reason they make those accusations. And it's not because it's true. It's the racists using an old Goebbels tactic. Accuse your enemy of that which you are guilty. Knowingly accuse your enemy of that of which you are guilty. That is what this cabal that I'm telling you about does. And it's global. Folks, it was in Brazil with Bolsonaro. Jair Bolsonaro, absolutely. It's the people that supported Meloni. It's the people that supported Wilders. Yes, they're in league with Putin, but they're not, controlled by Putin. Their accusations are confessions. Because think about the rhetoric. Think about the rhetoric. All of it. It all matches. What are the chances of that happening in different cultures? That you get Chris Rufo and the Manhattan Institute here saying the exact same thing that they're saying in Eastern Europe. Oh, wait a minute. Chris Rufo is also in an institute in Hungary. I mean, what are the chances that messaging is exactly the same? Because they are controlled by a handful of very, 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 very wealthy individuals that are pushing this same exact message out in country after country. In Canada, we've got a lot of viewers from Canada. This is Pierre Polivic. He's Justin Trudeau's main opposition. Pierre Polivic. Poliva, pardon me. I'm butchering his name. Same exact messaging. Same exact messaging that we see globally. The Browns are coming. Immigration is bad. During COVID, the government is controlling you. They're forcing vaccines into your body to control you. All the weird, nutty craziness that came out of it was all spread in Canada, in Germany, in France, in Brazil, in Russia. It's not an accident. It's not an accident. And right now you've got where this ties in with the AFD. The AFD party. This is Christine Anderson in the middle. She's one of the purveyors of the nutballness. She is from the German AFD party. These are all MPs aligned with Pierre. Canadian MPs. They're in Canada for this meeting, having a big conservative, racist Nazi party. She says the grossest shit, just like Charlie Kirk. Ooh, I see a black pilot, and I don't know if he's qualified. It's not an accident. It's not an accident that there's the Junge Alternative in Germany, and there's Turning Point USA here in the United States. Where do you think that funding comes from? Why do you think they accuse us, we Democrats, of that? It makes no sense to us. We don't understand. I've never gotten a check from George Soros in my life. If he wants to write me a check, cool, I'll cash it. But it doesn't happen. Why do they accuse us? It's the old Goebbels trick. Accuse your enemy of that for which you are guilty. Why? Because your people know. It's like yesterday in the conversation I had about the border. It's not projection. It's not projection. People say, oh, it's projection. It's not textbook projection. That's not it. It's insurance. It's insulation. See, I had a bunch of people call me a pedo. You're a pedo, because I don't agree with the bullshit that we're being invaded. Yet the right movement, the churches, I show you. You can go follow Bex online. Antifa operative. Go follow her on Threads and XChan. She shows you every damn day someone in these right-wing churches gets arrested for being a pedophile. Their movement is rife with pedophilia. Cops busted damn near every day. Cops, right-wingers, MAGA cops busted damn near every day abusing children or raping women that they pulled over. They know their movement is full of this, so they accuse us of what they are guilty. Why? It's not projection. It's insulation. It's insulation. Because when we see their globalism, and I tell you about their globalism, that they are controlled by extremely wealthy people, like Paul Singer taking Samuel Alito out on his junkets for years before we ever knew anything about it. Or Harlan Crow, doing the same thing. Buying members of our government, these ultra wealthy people. Because when the allegation comes the other way, when we're like, hey, wait a minute, you're controlled by a bunch of rich guys that are putting out the same message in every freaking country from Canada to Russia. We see this. We see what you're doing. They're like, they're just saying, they're just trying to throw shit back at us. That's all. Lame. Come up with your own insults. Lame. It doesn't have any impact. It doesn't land with them because they know they made bullshit allegations at us. They called me a pedo 1,000 times because I didn't agree with them politically. So I tell them, hey, your churches are filled with pedophiles. They're arresting them every day. Lame. We called you a pedo last week. Lame. Thanks, Gigi. I appreciate that. So this is what I want you to do. This is where I want to land this plane. This is where I want to come in. This is what I want you to do, and this is why. A great piece here by Robert Reich, by the way. If you want to follow a really good economist, follow Robert Reich. He's really good. Great article. Read the article from Politico about Ted Johnson and what's in his mind. Read this article. The billionaires lined up behind Donald Trump. They did. They think they're going to be okay. Ted thinks that Donald Trump is going to destroy everything in the government that he doesn't like, but his pension, his army pension, and everything, Ted's going to be okay. He says that in the article. He's going to be fine. He thinks Donald Trump will never come for him. Donald Trump will fight for him, hurt the people he wants hurt. Eat the rich. Eat the rich. Folks, stop screwing around with this. Stop screwing around with this. They're coming for you. They are coming for you. Get out of your own worldview. Get out of your own worldview. You look at things the way your experience frames your view. You do. Think like a billionaire for a second. Get out of your worldview. To them, you're an asset. You're just something to be managed. That's it. Your dreams, your ideas of freedom, your ideas of wanting to be able to discern your own destiny, all of that is freaking meaningless to these people. And they're old, and they're racist and hateful. And they have plenty of people lined up willing to do their bidding for a check. That is the Republican Party, folks. That's why you have Ted. Ted. Guy living his best freaking life. Living the dream, man. Remote working at home, pulling in a great income. No fears, no nothing. Wants our government destroyed. Eat the rich and do it now. They're coming for you. They're coming for you. And this is how you do it. You have to fight and fight smart. We made Karen a word in our lexicon, much to the chagrin of the lady that keeps frickin' emailing me, who's named Karen, who would like me to never use the term Karen again and is mad as hell at me because I call people Karens. I'm sorry your name is Karen. I'm not going to stop saying it. Peter Campbell says, Trump will do an MBS, get all the rich in a hotel and say, what's your freedom worth now? Pay me. Yeah, and then some. And then some. If you think camps aren't going to be real, you're crazy. They've already said they're going to do it. They've told you out loud. We need to come up with a name, an insult, an attack that they have not used before to throw at us. And that's Ted. You're being a Ted. Anytime anybody thinks that we're being invaded, stop being a Ted. Stop being a Ted. Every time anybody that says, oh, the economy's terrible, stop being a Ted. Stop being a Ted. We can follow we know my retirement's great. The Dow just set a record. The S&P just set a record. Stop being a Ted. The Ted is an oppressed white guy that's living the dream, the life of privilege that is wonderful, has a great life, but thinks the country is horrible and terrible and must be destroyed because he's feeling oppressed, because he used to control everything, and now the gays just want to be happy, and that ain't right. And black folks want to be in the government, and that ain't right. And all the horrible things that they think and feel. Thank you, honey. Hey, there's no coffee in that. By the way, man, I got my Jerry Garcia cup. Thank you. I appreciate it. You people are great. Send me neat gifts. But yeah, that's what I need from you. And what I don't need, we're liberals, we're Democrats. Every time I say to do something like this, every time I say, I told you I collect cups, and one of our supporters, really great guy, emails me, asked me if I like the Dead. I'm like, yeah, I love the Dead. They're great, man. And I was talking to him about a trip that Mrs. Texas Paul took on our honeymoon. We were in San Francisco. We actually went by their house, and he sent me two identical, one for me and one for Mrs. Texas Paul, two Jerry Garcia cups. I appreciate you, my man. But look, we're liberals, which means that when I tell you, hey, let's start the moniker Teds, I'm going to get a bunch of you people that are like, oh, no, I'm smarter. I have a better idea. Let's do this instead. Fuck that noise. I'm good at this. I built this community because I'm fucking good at this. Call them Teds. Do that. Make that happen. For once in your life, goose step along. Call them Teds. By this time, 6 months from now, Teds will be a new word in our lexicon. Trina Longa says, read Nick Bryant, The Franklin Scandal. I love you folks because you actually read. I love you folks. Recommendation from Trina Longa is probably a good one. Hashtag Ted. There's an invasion coming. Hashtag Ted. Oh my God, Bidenomics is a failure. Hashtag Ted. You're being a Ted. So before we call it quits and we're out of time, we've run over. It is Wednesday. Hal is on. My good friend Hal. What is a Ted? What is a Ted? Ted's a privileged white guy living the dream, or white gal living the dream, that thinks that the world is horrible when it's really great because they're old and they're scared. They're Teds. Love you folks. This is Old Texas Paul. We ran late. We don't really have a time for a round table today. I appreciate all the support. I really do. Peter Campbell, tuition for Texas Paul community. Love the discussion. Thanks for the truth-based curriculum. You're welcome, Mr. Campbell. I appreciate you. Remember, folks, if the folks in Germany can do it, if the folks in Germany can stand up against fascism and say, screw that noise, we're not doing it, we can do it. We can do it. We can have our own rally in D.C. that says, screw this noise. We're not going to be okay with racism. We're not going to be okay with Charlie Kirk saying, I see a black pilot. I'm not sure if I'm thinking he may, oh God, I hope he's qualified. You racist prick. We're not going back there. Folks, more people have identified as LGBTQ plus than ever before. Is it because we have more gay people than ever before? No. Is it because the gays have been out recruiting, turning people gay? No. It's because people aren't afraid. 2024, they can live their lives. They can live their lives. And we're not going back, folks. We're not going back. We're moving forward and having a good life. Even though Ted thinks it's terrible, because he's never been held accountable for his ugliness before. And just for somebody that's never been held accountable, it feels like oppression. Ted feels January 6th was just an expression of anger, and that's okay. And by holding these people legally responsible for attacking police officers and shitting in our Capitol and trying to end our democracy, they're the victims. That's a Ted. That's a Ted. You folks have a wonderful evening. It's hump day, baby. We're halfway there. We're halfway there. Enjoy some Texas cities at night. And thank you for all the support. Visit the Texas Paul store. We got the black and white Texas Paul pothead mugs. Have your pothead mug ready for our discussions. I'm glad you could be here.